Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this reading is for the new moon in Taurus on April 25th at 6 degrees of Taurus. By the way, the number 6 connects to Venus, which is really awesome because Venus is the ruler of Taurus. And that's why I put that Empress card there, because the Empress is a card connected to Venus. And so it connects to both Taurus and Libra, since both of those signs are ruled by Venus. However, I think due to the attributes of the Empress card that it is more of a fit with Taurus. It's nature, abundance, the Earth Mother, sensuality. I associate those qualities more with Taurus. But I deliberately chose that card just to show you what it looks like and to give a vibe for the reading. I also have this Jane Spiller book called New Moon Astrology. And Jane Spiller was an astrologer, and she just passed away last August. And this book talks about making wishes on each new moon. And if you are Taurus, that's especially apropos, but any of us can do that at a new moon. And so what you would wish for at this new moon are issues surrounding your foundations. So building a strong foundation, having the perseverance to follow through, to just keep going step by step, so being very methodical, not just slapdash and trying to get to the end. So it's like that commitment to excellence and the really creating a strong base for whatever it is that you're trying to do. So whether it's a business, whether it's a relationship, and having qualities connected to reliability. So we're talking about being trustworthy. You say something and people believe what you say because they know that you will follow through. I'm reading a whole bunch of things. I'm a Sagittarian, so I have probably reading 10 books at once. I'm also reading the 4 Agreements, and one of the 4 Agreements is being impeccable with your word. You know, it's easy to promise something, but do you deliver? And that's part of reliability. And the fact that you have patience, that you're not going to take off, that you're gonna stay with something, whether it's a marriage. Some people, it's funny, isn't it? 2 sides of the same coin with Taurus. I don't mean with Taurus. 2 sides of the same coin, and Taurus is on the other end, sometimes being too willing to hang on to things and not let them go. But then you have a sign maybe like Aries that's very quick initiating things and not good at follow through. So neither of those extremes is what we should try to go for. But there definitely is, they say patience is a virtue, and I think that's definitely true. But I think this is the most important one because Taurus rules the second house of your earned income, your possessions, but also your self-respect, your self-esteem. And so qualities associated with that are, you would talk about enjoyment of life, and that's Venus. And I think that's a self-esteem issue. I think people who deprive themselves of experiencing joy, experiencing just buying themselves something nice after they've done something that, to reward themselves, I think that can sometimes be a sign of low self-esteem. I'm not saying that you should, be a shopaholic, obviously, and that you should just buy things all the time. Because sometimes Taurians can get into that indulgence where they are constantly using money and objects as a way to feel better and to boost their self-esteem. So it's a double-edged sword for sure. But that idea of you deserving pleasure, you deserving the good things in life, that to me connects with your sense of self-worth. And sometimes people base their self-worth on their possessions, the other quality of that second house. So that's something else to look out for, is if you do that, because not only is that subject to change, because you never know if you will still have them, but they're temporary things. And so you can spend all your life chasing after physical symbols of your worth, and it's like, first of all, it's never ending, but then you get to the end of your life and you realize, oh my God, I have to leave these things. Now, the only thing that I possibly can take with me is my soul, but I haven't developed my soul because I've been so consumed by materialism. See, and I say that and I sound like I'm encouraging self-deprivation, and that's what I'm trying to convey here, is that there is a middle ground where you can enjoy the pleasures of life, which, if you want to rationalize it, God gave us this. So we shouldn't say that we can't do it because, maybe you come from a church environment that teaches you to have distrust for anything pleasurable. To me, that's an indoctrination. That is not fact. Indulgence is always something that you have to watch out for, though. Being overly indulgent, getting addicted to things. It's funny, the second house is Taurus's house, and then I think of the second chakra in the chakra system of the 7 major chakras, and that deals with pleasure. I sometimes think the second chakra is kind of a combination of the 2nd and 5th houses in astrology, and I'll have to read up more on that, but it's the second house or the second chakra in the energy system deals with pleasure issues and our emotions, as well as our ability. Well, when I say pleasure, our ability to experience pleasure, because the first chakra is all about survival. So once you have gotten that taken care of, then you can move on to doing things that are pleasurable. When you're just trying to stay alive, you don't even have the luxury of thinking about, gee, what will I do with my time to do something that will bring me pleasure? And that's kind of like an interesting difference between those two chakras. So speaking of this Taurus energy in this new moon, I was thinking about hippies. And my mind goes in strange places, but I was thinking of what to call this, and I was going to call it the Summer of Love 2.0, because on June 1st, 2017, it will mark the 50th anniversary of the Summer of Love in 1967, which ushered in the era officially of the hippies. Now, you could argue that there were hippies before 1967, but just that thing where it became an actual thing, the thing that became a thing. That's perfect hippie talk. But I was thinking about that because I am really fascinated with that era. And I was in diapers then, so obviously I don't remember it. And I didn't grow up in a countercultural environment. But I do really resonate with the ideals of the hippie movement. And I've read up a lot on what happened and what may have destroyed it. Because like everything else, it can be indulgent, and that's exactly what I think happened. And also, you could say too idealistic, although I don't believe there's so much thing as too much idealism. But not having that Taurian virtue of building something concretely. There was too much airy-fairy stuff happening. And actually, the generation that became the hippies were the Neptune and Libra people. Neptune went into Libra in 1942, and that generation came of age in the 60s. So they were the flower children, and they were the ones, or the original ones, I should say. And when you think of the hippie generation, you think of the love generation. So, and even flower power, Libra, beauty, Venus. So the emphasis was on love, but you have Neptune. What does Neptune represent? Illusion, idealism, mysticism, addiction, disillusionment, no boundaries. Free love was big then. So all of these things are really influences on what became the hippies. And I think that Taurus represents it perfectly, because you're talking about back to the earth, natural, the Venus, the Venusian influence of love. Also just like chilling, not being overly ambitious, loving to be just communing with nature, and not being so uptight, man, being loose. And so I think I'm going to call this feeling groovy and going with the flow, because I think that that's perfect. And then when I had read that in this Jane Spiller astrology book, it said something about going with the flow, and then I picked the Flowing River card from the Native Spirit Oracle deck. So that couldn't be more perfect. So I'm going to go right into these cards, and this is from, I never get these correct. I think this is from Dorian Virtue's deck called the Ascended Masters. And I got Merlin, and it was energy healing. Now, what is energy healing? By the way, look at that beautiful artwork. That is so beautiful. And of course, Venus deals with art and beauty and things like that. So anything that you can embrace in your life that brings you more beauty is beautiful, for lack of a better word. I mean, music, Taurus rules the throat. So people who are singers, they may have a prominent Taurus in their chart. I have Taurus rising. So, and I can tell you, singers I know that have Taurus, maybe not sun sign. There are a lot of sun signs that are Taurus. I mean, a lot of sun signs that are Taurus. A lot of Tauruses that are singers. Like, I believe Bing Crosby was a Taurus. But you can think of more like in the rock era. Both Jim Morrison and Mick Jagger have or had Moon in Taurus. And a lot of, there are, Judy Collins is a Taurus. I could go down the line. Of course, these are from a bygone era. I'm sure nowadays, I don't know many of the information of singers today. A lot of that is not necessarily focused on the vocals first and foremost anyhow. But getting back to Merlin and talking about energy healing, what is energy healing? Well, Reiki, and you could even say like shamanic healing, which is like, as I understand it, because I've gone to different, I don't know if you call them workshops, where they deal with it, shamanic breathing. I believe it's connected to the Native American tradition. I think that's, or just say indigenous, because it could be around the world. It doesn't have to be in the Americas, I don't think. And basically, yeah, I think I'm right about that, because I think we even had African rhythms. And it's using these sensory methods, like rhythm, or the inhalation pranayama, which is, it's not smelling per se, but using, inhaling as a way to kind of, move the energy through, if you've ever done any kind of rhythmic breathing. But there's definitely the senses connected to shamanic healing. By the way, you guys, I just found out that they're doing something. There's always like lawn care or leaf blowers, and now it looks like they're going to be doing something with cutting down trees. So because I don't want to wait on this any longer, I'm going to keep going, and I apologize for any environmental noise, because I know that some of you are experiencing this as well. And I'm very sensitive to noises, and I don't like harsh noises. And I'm surprised that so many people can tolerate that. And I think that's one other thing to think about with this new moon. How can you bring more beautiful sounds into your life? Whether it's using a more quiet or peaceful voice when dealing with other people, pleasant voice, even when you feel upset, that you don't automatically raise your voice, or that you at least try to be more mellow when you're interacting with people, when you're feeling that intensity of your emotions. But what kind of sounds are around you? Do you listen to peaceful music? Do you listen to things that make you feel less agitated, or do they stir you up more? I don't listen to a lot of rock music anymore. I don't really listen to music all that much. When I was a teenager, I was totally into it, as I'm sure many of you are. But as I've gotten older, I've gravitated, I really got into piano classical music, like Debussy, for instance, and Chopin, because it's meditative. It makes me feel more peaceful. And I'm not 15 anymore. I don't need to be like pumped up with this raw energy. I want to just feel like blissed out, okay? And so that is more Taurian, is the peaceful surroundings, the natural surroundings, not artificial fragrances, natural fragrances. It's so amazing when you start to get into natural products, you know, the laundry soap, all of these things, you really feel the difference. And it's not harsh. The odors, the fragrances are so much more subdued but wonderful. The perfume, the artificial perfume, to me is like, it smells like bug repellent. So because of what is happening out there, I am going to just continue, because I want to get to all these cards, and you can hear that rumbling probably. Then I got Hilarion, and I found out that Hilarion was from the 4th century. And it's divine healing. It says, honor your sensitivity. Retreat to recharge and heal. Your light can support others. And he actually ended up in a cave, and he would heal people. And I'm assuming it was like energy healing type of work. And so isn't it interesting that I got 2 cards related to healing like that? As I said, you know, Taurus and nature are what, they have that connection. So getting into that type of environment is very important for healing. Getting away from unnatural sources of entertainment that are meant to like make you very agitated, but it's not necessarily entertaining. Sometimes people confuse the two. Things that get you riled up, they can be very distracting, but it can be a negative distraction. And if it doesn't leave you feeling peaceful, then it doesn't seem to me that it's really beneficial overall. But what I really want to say about these 2 cards in healing is, what kind of healing can you do that involves forgiveness? You know, the Taurus energy can sometimes be very stubborn, very fixated or obsessed on something. So that can include things that were done wrong to the person. And wanting to get beyond that and not allow ourselves to kind of get too stagnant in our energy fields, because that can create blockages, and then you do need Reiki in order to, or something, to kind of have more of a balance. You know, when your chakra becomes imbalanced, you tend to overdo or underdo something. Like for instance, with the third chakra, which is power, if it's underactive, you tend to be very like a constant victim, where you don't ask for what you want and you feel victimized. And then you always are disempowered, and you feel like you can never do anything and change your life. And I really, like when I do readings, I really emphasize not being in that vibration, because sometimes readings can trigger that mentality, because people are saying, okay, reader, tell me what is going to happen and it better be good. And that is that kind of wrong thinking, where people think that their lives are already set in stone, and they're very fatalistic. They do not do anything to change their own lives, but they're looking for other people to change. And they spend years and years sometimes waiting for other people to change. And it's a very fruitless behavior to engage in. But by healing, you know, well, I wanted to say one thing. If your power chakra is overactive, then you can become very controlling and bossy, because you want to control not only yourself, but you want to control everyone around you. And you feel out of control when you can't control other people. So that's an example of energy blockages that throw off your chakra. And your chakra, each chakra represents a different area of your life. And it's important to have balance as much as possible. So that's why it was so great that I got this card from the Nature Spirit Oracle deck, the Flowing River, because it is about going with the flow. And that means not controlling others. Tending to your own garden is a good way of putting it. So how do you go through, do you flow with life, or are you going upstream? You know, that's a term that Abraham Hicks uses, going upstream, fighting the current, trying to make things happen that are not happening. My way of doing things is I kind of dip my toe in the stream, and I see what's happening, and I see how it's going. And if I feel it's a real struggle, I don't do it. When I hear people talking about the struggle, I think to myself, no way, that life should not be a struggle. It doesn't mean that we don't ever have challenging days. Don't get it twisted. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about overall. If you kind of almost are in love with your struggle, that is going to be problematic, because you identify with your challenges in life. And it may feel like that makes sense, because if something, you know, maybe you do have a success, but you had to really, really work at it. That can be very gratifying. But I would suggest to you in those instances that you may have been simply honing your craft. And that to me is a different story. If you want to do something really well, you have to keep doing it. So especially if you're artistic, don't think that you can just go and become whatever and that you don't have to work at it. You don't have to, I was going to say pay some dues, but I don't want to think of it that way. That you're not going to have to roll up your sleeves and actually hone your craft. Like the Eight of Pentacles is about perfecting your craft. That is not the same. It may be hard work in terms of like you're really focused on it, but it's not going to feel uncomfortable in terms of not being representative of who you are. I'm talking about I'm talking about a situation where you're wearing clothes that don't fit you, that don't belong to you, and you're trying to do something that really isn't you. That's where the struggle comes in. And the Flowing River is about accepting life on its own terms, doesn't mean that you're just totally so laid back that you never try to do anything. It means that you are relaxed as you try to do things, that you're not trying to make it happen, you know. That's where the problems come in. And then I got the Hierophant, which is, as I said, Taurus's card. The Hierophant is a card of tradition, organized religion, conformity to the social mores of your society. Now, getting this card, besides the obvious connection with the sign of Taurus, I would simply say that, and this is something that may be true a lot today, is that we have a society where we tend to go to extremes. First, we create sexism, and we kind of marginalize girls in the school system. I'm talking about specifically America, but I'm sure this is true around the world. And now we say, well, girls have rights too, and so boys may be getting marginalized. Institutions are only as good as their belief systems. So if you're going to believe in something, make sure that it's balanced, that it's not extreme in one way versus the other, which our society tends to do. And one of the reasons. So now we have a lot of confusion because people realize that there's hypocrisy going on. And so there's a temptation to just abandon all of the structures and try to be very individualistic. But I think that there is a time and place for tradition as well, that we can look to certain things and we can just judge them individually and see how they fit. The Hierophant is also a card of marriage. And that's one of the social structures. And there are a lot of people today that aren't getting married. I am one of those people who has been with somebody for many years and has never gotten married. And I never will get married. And I have reasons for that. But I respect tradition also. I'm kind of one of those people that is not a knee-jerk anything. So I think that there are certain times when marriage makes sense. For me, it didn't make sense. I think for some people it can make sense because commitment, for instance, with children, can be very important. If you say, you know what, I'm not going to walk away from this relationship if I get mad at you because we have children to think of. That to me is a logical, laudable reason for getting married. What I don't like is when people are just, oh, well, you got to get married. They just think that way because they've been conditioned. I don't like that, but I also don't like people who don't value tradition whatsoever because they think that conformity, that they think it's conformity, and it really isn't. If you go along, if you resonate with what the traditions are, then you're not just being this mindless conformist. Sometimes I was like yesterday was Easter, and I was thinking about all the wonderful experiences being a child in Easter egg hunts. And I was walking through the community where I grew up and wondering if they still have Easter egg hunts, or just wanting to go back to that place where I remember, a long ago April day looking for Easter eggs. And that kind of thing gives us a sense of comfort to look at these traditions and relive them through children. It doesn't have to be your own child, but just to carry it on. And so there's a time and place for everything, and that's what the flowing river is all about too, is just accepting things as they come and not trying to go against what is. So I think I'm going to leave it there. I hear a very loud sound, and I hope that you enjoyed this. and happy new moon in Taurus to you guys. Bye.